This transcends my own political views about what this administration has done. This, to me, gets to the heart of the integrity of the country, the integrity of our own government. And when we believe that our government is lying to us deliberately to cover for themselves, and then when they cover things up and repeatedly lie to us and try to change the story by saying things that they know as they say it are not true, then they lose the right to govern. Because the only power that government has is the power to serve people with the consent of the governed. And you can no longer have the governed consent if you don't have their confidence. And how can you have their confidence when you have lied to them repeatedly in an attempt to save yourself? And in this case, attempting to save yourself has resulted in the death of 4 Americans. And nobody's being held accountable. I lived through Watergate. I was in college. I remember very well all through that process, as it was the death of 1,000 cuts, and little by little information continued to eke out over a period of 3 years. And at first it did appear that it was a benign and insignificant break-in at the Democratic headquarters. It really wasn't that big of a deal. But the more we found out, the more we realized it was a big deal. And what made it a big deal was that it became increasingly obvious that there were people in very high places who were aware. And once some of these folks who may not have been aware prior to the break-in, but after they were made aware, then they did everything possible to keep the truth from coming out about who all was involved. Now, I want you to remember that after we went through the extensive hearings, both in the House and the Senate over Watergate, there came a point at which, as the Republicans began to jump ship and say we no longer can defend the president and this administration, they have done that which is wrong, there came the moment when Richard Nixon really had no choice but to resign his office. Now, I'm going out on a limb today, and I told you earlier this hour that I want you to mark this week down. I think it is going to be a very significant week. We've already seen the first layers of the onion unpeeled. We'll see some more of them this week. It is far from over. This is not going to happen this week. It won't happen in the matter of weeks. It will be a matter of many, many months. And let me be clear another thing. What I'm about to say will not happen if the Democrats get control of the House next year. If they're able to get control of the House and maintain the Senate, this will not happen because they won't let it happen. And they won't let it happen not because they're protecting just the president. They're trying to protect their entire political party. They would be wise to, rather than try to protect the president, would be to protect the integrity of the American system of government. And that will save their party. Because if they try to protect the president and their party and do so at the expense of the truth, their president and their party will go down. Now, here's what I'm going to suggest will happen. As the information and facts begin to come out, it will become so obvious that there was a concerted and very, very deliberate attempt to mislead this country and its people, to lie to Congress as well as to you. And I believe that before it's all over, this president will not fill out his full term. I know that puts me on a limb. But this is not minor. It wasn't minor when Richard Nixon lied to the American people and worked within those in his administration to cover up what really happened in Watergate. But I remind you, as bad as Watergate was, because it broke the trust between the president and the people, no one died. This is more serious because 4 Americans did, in fact, die. And President Obama has yet to explain why did they die. I'm not saying he was the one who withheld the operational command of the Special Forces going in there to try and at least attempt to rescue them, because I don't know that. I don't know personally that Hillary Clinton was the person who said, do not pull the trigger on those Special Forces going in. I don't know who it was who foolishly tried to say, let's blame this on a YouTube video. Let's pretend that this was a mob so we don't have to acknowledge that al-Qaeda is not dead, did not die with Osama bin Laden in that safe house in Pakistan, that in fact terrorism is very much alive and we are still under great threat every single day from radical terrorism. I don't know who did that, but here's what I know. The highest levels of people in the United States government, all the way up to the president, knew that what they did tell us was not true, and they continue to tell it throughout an election season and beyond, and they've tried to change the subject, and when the facts come out, they will not be able to stand. They will have lost the right to govern. And of all the things with which I have disagreed with the president, policies about taxes and policies about foreign policy and about Israel and about the Second Amendment, all those things are political. This is not a political issue. This goes all the way to the heart of the integrity of the United States government. You can disagree with the president, you can criticize a president, but when a president lies to the American people and is a part of a cover-up, he cannot continue to govern. And as the facts come out, I think we're going to see something startling. And before it's over, I don't think this president will finish his term unless somehow they can just delay it in Congress past the next 3.5 years.